Okay, this video might be a little challenging because I can't remember chronologically exactly when I bought every single garment or whatever. But as I was talking in the previous video, I had already kind of acquired about 20 at least kind of budget kilts, and some that I ended up, getting rid of without even really wearing because they just weren't the right fit. But getting a real feel for the different fabrics, and the one fabric that I thought was real wool kind of had me fooled, and that was basically the UT Kilts 8-yard model, what he calls the 8-yard model, which I still contend is probably more like a 6-yard model, and it's possibly one that I think is more like a 75% wool blend. I'm not exactly sure, but from what I've seen of other videos, I kind of narrowed it down, and pretty sure that that's the actual fabric weight, and it's not made in Scotland or a UK mill. The problem with the 8-yard model is that, well, when Robert McDonald did his reconstruction video of a kilt that may or may not have come from the same company, he said it was nice that they hadn't scalloped out any of the fabric for him, because then he was able to redo the thing and scallop out the fabric. But for me, I was getting these thick waistbands, kind of like a sumo wrestler belt kind of feel. So even though it wasn't the full 8 yardage of kilt, it was still a lot of bulk around the middle. And I didn't find it terribly uncomfortable, really, but I couldn't wear them in any warmer months. Like, there was kind of a really short window to wear them in kind of the winter. And I'm in California, so there isn't a lot of winter to begin with. And so I had a few, and a couple of them I kind of got in kind of holiday colors. And so it was kind of like, well, it goes with the holiday, so I'll just wear it for the holiday kind of thing. And I think I put some of those pictures in that previous slideshow anyway. But in that time frame, I had also tried to find accessories that would match the things. I had called one company and had actually ordered the same kilt from them, and called back and said, "Oh, you guys are charging this much for an acrylic blend one, whereas the guy over here is charging less money for a full wool one." And so they were gracious enough to cancel the custom order. And turns out it would have been probably the exact same kilt, and I would have maybe had it sooner. But whatever, live and learn. And so I had turned around and gotten that same kilt, and had a dog of a time trying to find accessories that match. And I'll have photos of all this. This is kind of out of order. So, like I said, this video is going to be a little less organized than I would like, per se. Trying to kind of keep my. So one of the things I had kind of invested in at the time, was kind of tartan headwear. I was trying to kind of find hats that went with each kilt and ties that went with each kilt before I kind of gave up on some and was happy with others. And like I said, I don't tend to try and buy an expensive garment to match a cheap garment. I've done that a few times, but if I have, a cool tie and I want to try and find something that matches it, that's usually almost impossible. Whereas with a kilt, obviously, you don't have to go to this extremes. You can just get a solid color tie, and it would be fine. But at the time, like I said, I was a total novice, and I was mostly going on Amazon. I hadn't been able to find as much extensive web search stuff yet, that kind of pointed me in a better direction. I was kind of going by the seat of my pants, and trying to collect 20 tartans or so is also kind of not the way to do it if you're a novice, especially when you're buying nicer accessories. Even in many cases, I'm buying a $40 tie and a $60 hat to go with a $30 kilt. Like they wouldn't look that good together anyway. So a lot of times it would be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna have to upgrade this kilt eventually, or sooner than later, or whatever, just to wear this stuff because it looks just dorky trying to wear a really nice tie with a clearly inferior kilt. So at some point, like I said, I found that polyester one that, like I said, kind of um, mimics the not necessarily the exact feel of the real wool, but the weight, definitely the weight of the real wool, and not as bulky around the middle as the other brand, but still pretty heavy kilt, to carry around. And so this video, I'm focusing on what I kind of consider the mid-range of kilts, which would be like, I mean, that one was only like $80 if memory serves. So, price-wise, I'm still putting that below. And the UT kilts topped off at about 150, which again is not a lot to spend, if you're just wearing it casually and, for fun. I wouldn't, say, like I said, if apart from the bulkiness restriction, like I wouldn't want to wear it, too much in, after June or July, but for the price, I didn't think I was getting a bad deal. But so I would still put that in kind of the budget range more than kind of the mid range. So at some point I wanted to get, the kind of the kilt. This is the one they'll, bury me in kind of thing, and obviously I don't want to skip straight to that, but I guess I'll do a little bit. So at the around the same time, I was kind of getting um, ready to kind of make that jump into the next, like I said, quality range of kilts, the mid range, I guess we'll call it. UT Kilts had offered that kind of price, a little more than I wanted to spend, but it was going to be real Scottish fabric now. And so I was looking at his kilts versus USA kilts, and it looked like I was going to maybe save about $100. So it seemed, pretty worthwhile. So I grabbed, not necessarily, like I said, the correct order. I got this one, like I said, for about and it's 16 ounce. It's Martin Mills. I don't know if it's exactly, again, 8 yards. I haven't counted the pleats lately or anything, but there's a decent amount of weight in here. So I was relatively like, okay, yeah, it's the real deal. Like I could feel the difference in the fabric for starters because I had already gotten a swatch from USA Kilts, I think I think I had paid for a swatch from them, so I knew what the fabric was supposed to be. The construction was basically the same as theirs, with the kind of this sewn down placket. It has, the fringe. It had the three straps, had the, the cloth waistband instead of the satin shiny stuff that again was kind of a budget style, and this kind of weathered look to the red instead of that bright Royal Stuart red from the acrylic, kilt. And so yeah, this was kind of going to be my holiday kilt, and whatnot, and basically a lot of struggle trying to find the matching accessories, because this came from the Martin Mills and the accessories came from the House of Edgar, which, cut to the chase, instead of bringing out all the accessories, it is obviously a much different, much bolder color. So in my photos, I think I'll have at least one where I'm trying to wear the hat and the tie that match this with this kilt, and it just, even though it's technically the exact same tartan, it totally clashes. And this kilt has its own story. So that like I said, I thought was, pretty adequate for the price. But when I went to put it on, I had always gotten kind of this crooked look to the front of it in the photos. And I thought, well, what am I doing wrong? Is it the straps? I try to adjust the straps. I do this, I do that. And so the first year, you think it's a fluke. You think, well, I'm fat, or I'm this, or I'm that, or the straps are, not in the right hole. I don't know. But then the following year, I started to notice that the thing was crooked too. So what I came to realize is that this front apron is not sewed exactly straight. So you can see where the waistband is at an angle, which when you're wearing it, the waistband is actually more straight than the tartan. Somehow it's because it's the whole front apron is a more of a square or a rectangle than what Robert McDonald calls an A line. So I don't know how to rectify that. I don't know how exactly that went wrong. I don't know when or where I'll ever get it re-sewed to hopefully correct that kind of thing. Probably never. It's probably just what it is. And so, but like I said, this is the one, this is the going to be the one. And then you look at it, this is the crooked one. Okay, well, yeah. Apart from not being able to match the accessories, I also have a kilt that's, cockeyed. not, not, so did I save money buying? I don't, maybe. I'm, like I said, I don't know. One of these days, maybe I'll have to have it looked at, and that'll cost me more money, or maybe I'll end up, selling it somewhere down the road. Someone will go, I don't care. It's already made. It fits, whatever, who knows? So coming back to, again, out of order, the next kilt that I got just about a year ago, I think. Here's my flashes here. This one I ordered from another company, not the same company. It's obviously way less yardage. That's listed as like their 5-yard or whatever, or casual, or however they had it labeled. And maybe it's 5 yards. That would be probably generous. I don't think it has a ton of pleats. Like I said, but I ordered this was only $250 now, but it is real House of Edgar fabric. I can verify that. Like I said, I already had kind of the accessories and some swatches or whatever, and so it's a 13 ounce. It's not as heavy as that one. A lot lighter weight, a lot more practical for my environs. Um, but they had only one strap, which again with a kilt this lightweight, I don't really that I feel like I'm missing something when I put it on and there's only one strap and I'm not doing the extra one. But then once I'm wearing it for a few minutes, I'm like, oh, it doesn't really need it. It's it's not going anywhere. It's if it's gonna blow up, if it's gonna blow up, it's gonna blow up just because the fabric is lighter weight, not because it's missing a buckle. But the thing with this one, now they had advertised only buy kilts made in Scotland. Don't buy, other kilt. Okay, well that's fine. Home team pride and all that. But I've got other kilts, and I showed them in the previous video, the Pakistan ones, where the pleating is sewed much more nicely regimented. This one, you can see how much laddering there kind of is, where the lines don't match up very well. And I think it gets, I forget if it gets worse the farther down you go or whatever. And not a ton of pleating. They definitely weren't going to use as much fabric as they needed to. Like how much do we have to include and still call it pleats? I think they were a little. I don't know if they were rushed when they did this one or not, because they had sent the wrong tartan and it was a company error. So I ended up with a completely different kilt, and was like, "Hey, this is a nice, but not what I ordered." And I said, will they put a rush? Will they put a rush on my replacement? And they kind of implied yes, and then that didn't really happen. I was lucky to get this in time for the holiday. That was kind of like, really, okay, well, okay. They didn't bump me up to any head of the line or anything after their own screw up as far as I could tell. And but I mean, overall, it has like there's nothing under the lining. There's no reinforcement or anything. Typically, with a kilt this lightweight, you wouldn't probably need that. I don't imagine that it's super essential. Again, I bought this one to just kind of wear as more of a fun one, since I was just literally trying to match accessories more than there's like this one. I haven't really looked under the guts in a while, but if you look under, it also has no anything going on under here. It's literally just pleats sewed down and not scalloped out at all. The same as the budget kilt. So do I feel like I got $350 worth of labor in this kilt? Obviously not, even though the fabric is still, legitimate fabric. And of course, with the stitching being somewhat cockeyed, may have slightly overpaid, by standards. I don't know. Again, I wasn't like terribly dissatisfied with it, and I should have enough fabric there that, like I said, if I want to get it reconfigured one of these years, it shouldn't be an issue. So let's take a break. So I don't know if I'm gonna redo some of the order of those photos or not, but took a minute to kind of wade through. Anyway, obviously I mentioned USA Kilts. At some point, I had stumbled on either their videos or their website. I had already bought some things from them off Amazon without knowing it was the same company. So when everybody's screaming about the grandma candy, I had gotten the grandma candy and be like, what the hell is this? And probably thrown it away. Um, and this isn't going to be an advertisement for any particular company, but obviously their mid-range price, like I said, I considered too pricey at first, or not at first. I mean, I had probably bought kilts for at least a year before. Like I said, I knew who they were apart from ordering, probably some accessories or whatever. Um, the first one I got, like I said, I had already bought, or I had already ordered the accessories for the maple leaf, I think it was. And yeah, I mean, it obviously have the picture of the hat, so that was around the same time as some other accessories that I bought, along with that St. Patrick tartan. But like I said, I don't remember how early on in the scheme of things everything happened. But anyway, the maple leaf, there was two options. One is for the heavier lock heron, and so I had kind of I ended up with two hats, one that matched the House of Edgar and one that matched Loch Heron, and I didn't know all the subtlety differences of all that kind of thing yet. So when I was going through, I said, "Oh, I definitely want this kilt fabric because it's way cheaper than that kilt fabric, and probably lighter weight," which didn't necessarily mean that much. Didn't mean that much to me at the time, But so as what I called a test kilt, I had ordered this one from USA in the maple leaf, and here where the placket is a little bit different, this kind of threw me off where it's not so down like the other one. I was really worried this was going to snag on something. The measurements at the time were pretty correct. I'm a little big for it now, but I can still squeeze into it, thankfully. Obviously, they had the embossed straps, which was kind of, you know, a cool upgrade. The cloth lining, again, you're not going to have any real scalloping or interior kind of canvas reinforcement or anything. It's just pretty much the fabric sewed down. But like I said, this one cost around the same amount, maybe, as the first one, which again is the heavier fabric and I think significantly more material and pleating. And so at the time I was like, well, I'm getting, you know, a lot more for this money than for this money per se, without realizing, you know, like I said, kind of the errors in that fabric, because that having that much fabric not reinforced, I'm surprised it hasn't blown any seams yet or had any issues. But again, I barely have worn it except for holiday parties. And so, you know, maybe not the best example. If I wore it around more often, like I did with a lot of those $150 kilts, maybe I would, you know, be having issues with it already. Whereas it mostly, you know, lives a tranquil existence, unfortunately, in a drawer where, you know, we'll rectify that, you know, in time. But anyway, so, but this tartan, of course, is not a typical grid pattern tartan so much as it's what they call an asymmetrical tartan. So it's a little bit more awkward to kind of line up and really see. But the pleating is definitely not doing, you know, this kind of thing. You know, it doesn't have a test pattern or whatever going on. And so I got this one, and it, you know, it matched the one hat and not the other one, and all that kind of thing. And whatever. And I think, okay, fine. But like I said, the measurements a little bit off once I got a little bit bigger. So I was kind of back to the drawing board. And I'm not sure if I should do like and this video is already long, so I can't really go into the mills as much. But as I got to, you know the fabric in each mill a little bit better through, you know, getting some swatches and whatnot, somewhere along the line I had gotten the tweed from Martin Mills of this particular, which I had the green version in the budget kilt, which I think I showed in the other video. And so I thought, oh, a brown one, that's a nice chocolate. But this is a tweed. It's a lot more rough, a bit heavier, and a little more cost prohibitive because they were charging more for the tweed kilts than they were for the tartan kilts. So I kind of chickened out and bought the Wherein 13-ounce version instead, which obviously I don't like the color as much because it doesn't have that rich chocolate look to it, but otherwise it's the right fit and the right size. And another 13-ounce 5-yard deal, which again for my climate is about right for most of the, you know, the logical part of the year. And so that one being kind of the test kilt, this one being kind of the late summer kilt or whatever, you know, okay, I'm still kind of doing the seasons with my tartans. You know, this one can be kind of for like a little bit before that autumny look, and definitely before the holiday, you know, explosion when we get more festive than autumn. So I don't feel any real overt difference between the La Caron fabric and the House of Edgar. This is really awkward. I should not be bending over like that, but I don't have a proper table here to put everything. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't feel like they're both about the same weight of the fabric and that kind of thing, and yada yada yada. And so, like I said, that's kind of in the mid range. Just a few that I'm going to show off for now, because like I said, I'll probably have to do another video. The thing with House of Edgar is, I was kind of interested in getting maybe some of their Irish tartans, but most of them that are related to the counties that I would be able to trace back to are not necessarily tartans I would really go for. Like I've been meaning to make this, say I got this hat of this is supposed to be the county leash tartan, and to me it looks more like a Stormy Cromer hat than screaming Ireland. We're back to kind of rustic autumny colors more, and so it's kind of like not quite as vibrant, I guess, as I was looking for, and so I don't really know what to say about that. As far as premium kilts go, like I don't really can't give you an honest assessment of whether or not their more premium line kilts are better, because again, I'm not going to be wearing 8-yard kilts very much going forward. I have, pretty little use for it and kind of limited with the heat, and I already have that one. And in fact, back to UT kilts, like I said, doing these kind of out of order just to, go with the pictures. He was actually having a clearance sale on this Isle of Skye one. So I think I got this one for only $200 in like a size too small. And I'm pretty sure it's Martin Mills fabric again. I'm pretty sure it's 16 ounce. I have a swatch that seems to match up to it pretty well. And still in the bag, it's not gotten as much wear as I would, like, because I have been wearing those other ones during the kind of season when a heavier weight kilt like this comes in handy. So this year that should get rectified since I've gotten rid of several of those. I'm not going to take it out of the bag and look at the overall construction like the other one, because I haven't noticed anything significant. Like I said, like the crooked, although I'm sure if I look at it, scrutinize it, maybe I'll notice it now, what I didn't notice before. But I got such a low price on it. Like I said, I think it was $200 on, blowout sale. I guess he just had a whole bunch of extra ones lying around that he thought was going to go for, I don't know, a wedding party or something. People, or bagpipe bands or something. Maybe they tried to order a bunch of them and came up short, and a couple of guys quit or something. Who knows? But for whatever reason, this was pretty close to my size and pretty close to a price range. And so, that's the kind of bargains I tend to hunt for. Sporadically, I'm not every single week looking for kilt bargains, but when I am looking for kilts and I see something that's kind of in a tartan that I like and kind of a price range that I like, and kind of like, well, yeah, it might have something, defect wrong with it, but it's not overpaying for defects, like I said, with like the case of the other one where I'm a little kind of annoyed. It's more like, well, whatever's wrong with it, $200 fixes that. So, all right, let's